If you're taking a GLP or a GLP-GIP combo medication such as semaglutide or tirzepatide, or you're thinking about taking one, you've probably noticed how much the conversation around these medications is changing. We're seeing incredible results on these medications, but people are also starting to ask a very important question, which is how do I make sure I'm losing the right kind of weight? You want to lose the weight, you want to feel lighter, but you also want to improve your health and stay strong in the process. So I want to share some data with you that's important for your long-term health in relation to these metabolic tools, these medications. In major clinical trials, I've seen that while weight loss is substantial, a significant portion, sometimes up to 40% of that weight loss is from lean mass, which includes your muscle. This is what can happen when the body loses weight quickly. But the good news is that you can help support your body through the weight loss process in a way that helps protect against that muscle loss and support your metabolic health. In this video, I want to walk you through a 3-step strategy to help you prioritize and protect your muscle and metabolic health. First, we're going to talk about how to structure your meals to make sure that you're getting the building blocks you need to preserve your lean muscle mass. This is a practical way of handling that issue of being too full to eat, which is a real challenge for many people who are on these medications. Second, we're going to talk about the glucose sink, because it's super important to understand these organs that we have, our muscle. Your muscle mass, aka your glucose sinks, are your body's primary way of handling sugar. So protecting the size of your sinks is one of the most important things you can do to preserve your metabolic health while you're losing weight. And lastly, I'm going to show you how to use AI to help make this whole process just a little bit easier, because I know you already got a lot to deal with. Now, you're going to want to stick around for this. So if you're someone who's felt overwhelmed by the mental load of meal prep and tracking your protein intake and trying to hit your protein targets, I'll show you how to automate the logistics of this so you can get back to handling all the other tasks of daily living. By the end of this video, you'll have a nice roadmap to help you not just lose the weight, but also to keep your strength on your journey towards becoming more metabolically healthy. And this is not a warning against these medications, nor is it a way of shaming anyone on these medications. It's meant to be a guide on how to support your body and your metabolic health while using them, if using these medications is a part of your health journey. Hi, I'm Jessica Johnson. I am a doctoral prepared nurse practitioner, certified diabetes care and education specialist, and endocrinology clinician. In clinical practice, I work with these metabolic tools near daily, and I've learned and understand that the most successful journey isn't about weight loss in and of itself, that it's not about the number on a scale. It's not simply about losing body weight, not simply about weighing less. It's about supporting the body along the way to improve health outcomes and to improve metabolic health. So let's jump right in, and we're starting now. Okay, before we get clinical, let's get a little personal. I want to talk about the mindset we bring to this journey. Now hang with me, because this is important. There is this cultural understanding, this cultural language that you are the primary driver of your own health. You hear terms like be the CEO of your own health. You're the director of your health. Take charge of your health. And while we certainly have autonomy and the right to make our own health choices and decisions, the idea of absolute ownership can sometimes feel like a heavy weight. A lot of pressure, because with that ownership comes that feeling that we also own the outcomes. And when we feel like we own every outcome, it's easy to feel like a failure when we aren't perfect, or when our bodies don't respond exactly how we want them to or need them to, despite our best efforts. As a Christian, I'm learning to take a different perspective, and I'd like to share that with you. It's stewardship. And stewardship doesn't take away your autonomy. It gives your autonomy a purpose. It's the idea that our bodies are a precious resource entrusted to us. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 says, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You are bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies." When you see yourself as a steward rather than just an owner of your body, that pressure to be perfect, it shifts into a commitment to be faithful. James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, in his book, he argues that the best way to change a habit is not to focus on the outcome or the goal, such as the number on a scale, but instead to focus on the person you want to become. And he calls that identity-based habits. So you can think about it this way. Every time you choose to prioritize your nutrition, you're not just following some rule. You're essentially casting a vote for the person you want to become, a faithful steward of my health, a faithful steward of your health. And every action that gets you towards that identity is a step in the right direction. So, for example, every protein first meal becomes evidence of that identity. You aren't just eating. It's not just a meal. It's not just a rule. It's not just a habit. It's how you tend to the physical vessel or your body that allows you to show up for your family, for your work, for your calling and your purpose. It moves us away from that shame, from imperfection, and instead moves us towards empowerment. You aren't fixing a broken owner or a failing CEO. You're honoring a gift, your body, as a faithful steward. Okay, now the fun part. Let's look at the science of what's actually happening in your body. It's my favorite part. I want to share a concept that I often use called the glucose sink. I didn't come up with the terminology, but I love it. Your muscles are the primary source of glucose uptake, meaning they're the primary source of pulling sugar from out of your blood, lowering your blood glucose levels. Yay. They handle approximately 70 to 80% of that work when your body responds to insulin after a meal, so your postprandial blood glucose levels. So an insulin sensitive person with healthy muscle mass has large and efficient glucose sinks. Those things can absorb a large amount of glucose quickly and effectively. Though when we lose muscle mass due to rapid weight loss, those glucose sinks get smaller. And smaller, less efficient sinks mean that the glucose stays in the bloodstream longer, which can exacerbate or worsen insulin resistance, even as the number on the scale is going down. And here's something else I want you to know. While these sinks or your muscle usually need insulin to act as that key to open the door to allow glucose from the blood into the muscles, your muscles also have a manual override, which is pretty cool in my opinion. When you move your body, when you move your muscles, those muscles can pull in glucose directly without needing that insulin key at all. Those muscles become hungry hippos for glucose. This is a big deal for people who have insulin resistance. Now, I'm saying insulin and insulin key and insulin resistance a lot. If you're wondering what that is, or if you're curious about that, check out my last video. I'll go into greater detail on the role of insulin and describing what insulin resistance actually is. So anyway, this ability for muscle to manually override the need for insulin during periods of movement is another reason why protecting your muscle is so important. Yes, you want to lose the extra adipose or the extra body fat, but you want to preserve and keep your metabolic gold, aka your glucose sinks, aka your muscle. So how do we practically support these glucose sinks? You have to feed them, use them, grow them. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to feed them. And next episode, we're going to talk about using them and growing them. So stay tuned.
So the name of the game is to know your targets. How much protein do we need? The updated Dietary Guidelines for Americans 2025-2030 recommends protein intake of 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. Now, this shift acknowledges that the previous RDA of 0.8 grams per kilogram per day was just a minimum threshold to prevent deficiency and not an optimal target for metabolic health. For example, a 160-pound individual would weigh about 73 kilograms. If we're aiming for 1.2 gram per kilogram per day, that will give them a target protein goal of 88 grams of protein per day. Here we can see a comparison of protein targets for a person aiming for the target ratio of 1.2 versus 1.6 grams per kg per day. Again, these calculations are based on an individual who weighs 160 pounds or 73 kilograms. And again, we have the per meal protein goal breakdown here. The even distribution strategy, consuming protein in balanced doses throughout the day, triggers muscle protein synthesis more effectively than just one large bolus at dinner time. So evenly dividing your protein goal throughout the day tends to be a bit more effective. So the challenge with GLPs, of course, is appetite suppression, which is a component of how they are so effective at weight loss. But on a suppressed appetite, meeting these targets requires more intentional planning, not just hunger-based eating, because as you know, those cues would be diminished while on these medications.
It starts with making protein a priority. If you're on a GLP-1, GIP, GLP combo medication, your stomach slows down in a process called delayed gastric emptying, creating kind of a physical bottleneck, so to speak. So at mealtime, if you're filling up on water or fatty food or nutrient deficient foods that can come from ultra processed foods, you may find yourself physically too full to finish a protein that's going to actually support your muscle retention. So the strategy is protein first. Make the first several bites of your meal protein. A way to try to remember this is through habit stacking. This is where you attach a new behavior to one that you already do reliably and consistently. So you already have the habit of eating or sitting down to eat a meal. So you go to eat, you stack on the behavior of making the first several bites come from protein. It's not a rigid rule, but it's a way of trying to remind yourself to get into that habit of eating protein first, because while on these medications, as you may have already experienced, it can be very challenging to get that protein in because of how quickly it can start to feel full, particularly on these medications. What to eat when your appetite feels low? Because after all, on these medications, that's part of the whole point. When nausea is present or when your appetite is just low, those dense or difficult to digest foods can be very difficult to tolerate. In those cases, soft or lower fat protein sources tend to be better tolerated. Things like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, those foods are softer and can offer higher protein in smaller amounts. Things like eggs or soft fishes also tend to be a little bit more tolerated. And then moist ground meats, such as shredded chicken or ground turkey, can tend to also be a bit more manageable than more tougher cuts. And on days when your appetite is just truly gone or non-existent, a higher quality protein source such as a whey isolate or a clean protein drink can be a practical bridge to help you meet your body's protein requirements without feeling like you're overwhelming your digestive tract. And of course, the goal is not to rely on supplements as your primary protein source, but it can be nice to have them available when your whole food protein sources are insufficient or just not tolerated. Of course, always check the label on your protein source to confirm its protein content, as the amounts can vary by product and by brand. Lastly, we're going to talk about the AI tool. I know that calculating 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kg per day can sometimes feel like a lot of math or just a lot to think about, but it does get easier once you kind of have your protein targets, unless your weight changes significantly where you have to recalculate. But once you have a general understanding, you have that set for a bit. One of the most consistent findings in behavior research is that reducing friction is much more effective than willpower. This is where AI becomes a very useful tool. In the description box below, I have included a specific AI prompts that you can copy and paste into whatever AI tool you like using: ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and it looks like this. I'm on a GLP-1 medication with a reduced appetite. My protein goal is X grams per day. Create a 3-day meal plan using soft, easy to digest protein sources. Include a sample grocery list and keep meals under 5 ingredients where possible. I'd also like these meals to be quick and fast, so less than 30 minutes. Please create a 3-day low friction plan based on these constraints. Number 1 is the first 3 bites rule. For every meal, prioritize a soft protein source. Make it moist or easy to digest to ensure I hit my protein goals before I feel physically full. 2 is strategic fiber. Include fiber-rich sides that are cooked or blended to support my digestion without causing premature fullness. Number 3 is the no-cook option. Include at least 1 meal per day that requires 0 cooking for days when I have low energy. 4 is a liquid bridge plan. Provide 1 high-protein sippable option for days where my appetite is at its absolute lowest. 5 is grocery efficiency. Provide a consolidated grocery list organized by store section that's produce, dairy, meat, and pantry. Number 6 is habit stacking. Give me 1 James Clear inspired environment design tip to make following this plan easier. And you're going to get a plan in seconds. So the AI does the planning and you focus on the follow through. You focus on stewardship. Now, these prompts are not a substitute for sound clinical guidance, right? It's not a substitute for meeting with a registered dietitian or a licensed professional in medical nutrition therapy. These are practical logistical tools for getting you started and for days when planning just feels like too much. You can also use the input or the guidance that you get from your nutritionist and plugging it into this prompt for more specific output from your AI. Remember, you're not just trying to lose weight. You're building a body that's metabolically strong, one that can carry you throughout life so that you can fulfill your purpose. Today, we covered the bricks, aka the protein. But bricks can't build a house on their own. You need a signal that tells the body to put those bricks to use. So in the next video, we're going to cover resistance training on GLPs, why it matters, how to start, and how to build a habit that holds up for real life. Before you go, what is your favorite high protein food source? Apart from protein shakes, unless you have a really good protein shake, your comments can help inspire me and some of the other viewers who might be struggling with finding good protein sources. So please drop it in the comments. I read your comments. So 1, be nice. And 2, let me know what you want to see on this channel, because your answers and your comments will truly help shape what I bring to the channel. I've also linked a free protein and training log down below. You'll also find the AI prompts. I hope you find them useful. All right, if this was helpful, please subscribe. More is coming, and I am so glad you're here. I'll see you in the next one.